started the game, but I'm pressing that right now. So we have like, give or take like a minute or so here before the game's actually fully started.
Okay, I'm gonna wait for the broadcast to show up. Okay, let me hit live. Okay, so I got it turned on, so we'll wait. And yeah, once it starts, then I'll get started.
Oop, my phone died. Oh well, plug that shit in. Didn't you hate that moment like when your phone dies and you're like, you're hoping that maybe you can like plug it in right at that one moment? Like maybe it'll pop back up. No.
Yeah.
It is dead.
Nope, not at all. It is done dead.
Is done dead.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I was trying to just clean up a little bit of hard drive space, but like, you know, with new games coming out, and I do want to play like Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
That just came out and all this stuff, and it's like, man, the hard drive space, man, it's starting to get, because I don't want to, some of the games I do want to keep, I'm never going to delete Arkham, but that's taking up 73 gigs, and Grand Theft Auto's taking 65, and I'll probably have to delete.
Grand Theft Auto's 65 gigs? Good God.
It's huge. It is. Well, yeah, because all those updates that they keep adding to it. But that's what I was saying. I wanted to delete that to free up a huge chunk of space. But I'm like, shit. Well, if Alex gets it for Christmas, so we're gonna end up playing it with him.
That we still need to have a game for everybody there too.
Right. Okay. So is this it? You're playing?
This is it.
Okay. All right. We'll get started here, and I will go. We are back with part 2. Everybody's gone to the Rapture.
Yes.
So if you're watching via our YouTube live broadcast, welcome back. If you're listening to iTunes, Podomatic, thank you for not leaving, as you had no choice. You were still listening. Here we are. Everybody's gone to the Rapture. Mr. Ass Gamer, what am I looking at here? What is Everybody's Gone to the Rapture? If someone were just to hear Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, what in the world, how could you sum that up for them?
So when you think of the word rapture, right? Obviously has like the religious connotations of people essentially like the end of the world kind of type situation where
which we have a lot of games based on the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean it's a constant thing in the video game world.
And TV shows.
Maybe it's just something to do with how people are, but but this game, the concept of a rapture is that, regardless of your religious beliefs and those kind of things, but that one day it'd be like almost like Armageddon, that God would essentially turn all the beings into like pure light, that like you essentially are just gone, like you'd be left with dust essentially, that you have been raptured at that moment. And so this game is very interesting in that, for one, it doesn't really have any religious connotations with it. There's no talk about Christianity or any other type of religion in it. But what we have here is like a really beautiful game. I can't stress this enough. This is one of the prettiest games I've ever played. And it's very solemn and melancholy, and really what it's about is that you're a player that awakes one day in this, I believe it's in Britain. All the characters are British. So there's certain like nomenclature and things like that too as well, like the way they talk about certain things that I don't really understand. So there is a little bit of that, but essentially you're one of these characters that has been left over. You're the last left over. Nobody else is around. There's no other NPCs. There's no other characters or anything in this world. It is a vast, very beautiful world. I mean, even if you're watching this on the YouTube page right now, you can kind of see some of this stuff. You can see the sun is basically advancing across the sky in this like really eerie way. You walk through different areas of this vast countryside, and really what you're trying to do is reformulate what has happened. Because you're the only one left, and there's no characters. You hear the sound of the wind. You barely hear birds. It's so like quiet that like sometimes you'll be standing in a field and you can hear the flapping of like butterfly wings. So
Wow.
it's got this like eerie connotation with it that's like you're the last one. There's no birds even making noises. You only hear the rustling of trees and the sound of rain and things like that too. And what happens is that as you walk into different areas, you're gonna run into this like pure light energy that just shows up, and it starts replaying the energy, I guess, of the beings that were there at that time before the rapture. So you're replaying an entire story as you kind of travel through the countryside. There's no fighting,
Okay.
there's no shooting, this is the pure example, Eric, of a game where their designers are out there, they're like, I want to make a game that doesn't involve violence, or an open world that doesn't involve killing anybody or anything like that, right? This is that game, because essentially you're just walking through a field and trying to pick up that story of what happened. And I guess if I were going to try to simplify the story overall to you, what it is that you play as different characters during different parts, and as you advance further through the countryside, you switch up, like a little text comes up, and it turns out now you're playing as a different character that was once there. So I don't know if that it's saying like you're actually physically there, or if you're just assuming the role of one of these characters trying to figure out what happened. But really what happened was that two scientists performed some sort of experiment. There was an anomaly that was coming up that essentially caused this pure light to intensify on the planet Earth, and then it started abducting people, essentially. And one of the scientists is constantly telling you through audio tape recordings what she's doing and what she's finding out, and she's discovering that essentially she's trying to communicate with whatever this force is that's trying to essentially just take all of life from the planet. So it's eerie because you're just getting little parts of it.
Right.
And right now I would honestly like to see if I could find one of those sequences where you run into an area, and then it's hard to describe, but it's basically like a swirl of light that shows up, and then it kind of has this silhouette of the people, and then audio comes in with what they were talking about and what happened at that situation prior to them being raptured, I guess, as far as that. Right. So
sounds. Go ahead.
It's complicated, and I will tell you that, like, in terms of a story, there are varied amounts of stories going on. There are like 5 to 6 to, I don't know, there's like 12 different stories going on in this game. Because you're running into characters from that town, and then they're sharing their experiences with each other, and like, hey, I noticed that I went into this person's house yesterday, and all there was is this dust left over. I don't know where they went. And people are like, where did all these people go? And then people are starting bleeding from the nose and stuff like that too, and they're describing all these horrible things that are happening, but nobody knows what's actually going on. So it's a little disturbing in that regard. Because it's one of those things where it's like, man, it's just frightening, it's a frightening thought.
Yeah. It sounds like a grand scale of Gone Home.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
First person, you're going around trying to connect the dots, put the story together.
Exactly.
But granted, that was taking place in one house. This is an entire open world that you are exploring. So now as you're wandering aimlessly through the streets in these fields, how do you know where you're going or which direction you have to go? How do you know that? Because I'm watching this,
I am so glad.
Look so lost.
I'm so glad you asked that question, because really, when it comes down to it, that is the true pitfall of this game. It's not linear in a game that, in a way that you would expect. There are some subtle indications sometimes when you're walking around, like as you kind of saw in that first sequence there. That was actually after a big kind of moment, a big final reveal of like why the energy was taking people and that kind of stuff. And the problem is that basically it does visual cues and audio cues to let you know where to go sometimes. So what I've found is that sometimes you'll see like little bits of light on the floor or on the ground and stuff like that too, and you can follow them, and that'll kind of take you down the general path of where you need to go. And then other times, like more recently, there's this windmill that is kind of in the background that was making like one of those tornado air horn sort of noises. So I knew like, okay, I have to kind of go that direction to figure out what's going on with that. But in general, that's the biggest pitfall of this game, is that there have been multiple times where I feel like I have gone into a part of the story that wasn't fully revealed to me yet because I was just kind of wandering. And then I'm sort of misrepresenting the overall story is what I would tell you, because like I can't keep in mind all of the different things that really, like, there's so many varied stories of like there's all these different character names that I can't necessarily keep in my head when I'm only seeing like a silhouetted version of those characters and just hearing their audio. So right now, here's a perfect situation. I finally actually ran into a situation where somebody was talking.
Oh, yeah, okay, there you go. I see, yeah.
So you can kind of see like these light beings walking around. You can see them talking to other people. It's a beautiful game. I gotta honestly when I come down through it all and everything there too, and I go like, yeah, that's sort of a downfall of the game, is that I feel like I can't really keep up with every aspect of the story. Basically, there's a main plot that is why is all this happening, and then there's the subplot that is basically there are people who are and it's a really kind of interesting way to put this. There are people trying to develop relationships while this stuff is happening. So there's like a subplot story of how one of these guys is kind of like a philanderer, and he's really like he's dating multiple women in the village, and they're like, why aren't you being honest with these women and stuff like that too. And he's also like, the world's coming to an end, like we have to figure out what we're doing, like this isn't important. But like there's these subplots that are going on in the story that they're interesting in that regard. But I would say the biggest draws to this game, if you're looking for something that's more, it's definitely slow paced. You can, if you're watching me right now, this is as fast as I can go. I cannot run in this game. It's really about the visual experience.
So is this as fast as you can move?
This is as fast as I can move, yeah.
Okay, because as I'm watching that, I can already tell that this would drive me insane. And I get the point of it because they want you to take your time taking the visuals, which are absolutely fantastic. But I think this would be a game that I know from my taste in games, I might get annoyed and sick of, because I probably find myself aimlessly wandering, and if I haven't come into contact with anything for a while, that might drive me kind of crazy.
Yeah, so I will say this much, right? I've played this game over several days now. I have not really got an idea as to whether or not I'm getting further towards the end, but I know that the plot is advancing, right? There are sequences and parts in this game. Well, I mean, like, even just for walking around and everything, occasionally you'll run into maps that give you an idea. They'll say you are here and stuff like that too. But there's no compass. There's no direction. You have to look at that map a little more diligently and go like, okay, well, there's a town over here named such and such. So as long as I'm walking this way and I see, a sign that says that town, then I know I'm going the right direction, right? But oftentimes I will say that I have felt like I wandered back through areas that I had already actually gone to, looking for things because I'm thinking like, oh, okay, well, maybe I missed something in this area, or I didn't go all the way through that spot, and I didn't run into that part of the story that's allowing me to get further through. So that does definitely happen, and because you are walking slower, it doesn't lend much to having to backtrack. I don't,
right.
That's one of the hardest things with a game when, they're trying to make it non-linear, but it's also very linear in terms of the story, is that you need to go through a certain set of things to be able to actually advance the story. It feels like sometimes that I've just like been wandering. So yeah, it does happen. It's a little weird, but ultimately though, that's the thing about it though, is that like sometimes when I'm just like I want to be in a relaxed sort of mood, I don't want to play a game where I'm necessarily killing things all the time, like, because that's what we do. That's all we do in video games now.
Very fast paced. Yeah, no, it's true. It's a change of pace, because most games are very, very fast, very quick, and you don't have time to kind of take in the visuals, with maybe the rare exception of, like, say, Uncharted. That's an example where they had a good blend of check out our beautiful environment, all the while, crazy high octane action. As I do, one thing that was kind of I don't want to say red flag per se, but kind of piqued my interest at first, was when I remember looking at, I always pop up the games on the PlayStation Store just to kind of get the overview of the game each month as they come out, and what the general rating is. Now I've noticed for the PlayStation Store, when I look at games, most star ratings for games are 4 and higher.
Yeah.
This was the first game I ever saw that I can recall that only had 3 stars.
Right.
In the rating.
And that's the thing too, is that, like, I guarantee you most gamers are not going to enjoy this, and I understand that. I do, because it is more
a shame.
It's more contemplative, It's one of those types of games that, like, you have to be in the right mood. You have to want to play a story game. And you have to want to have an experience for yourself, or even those who are sitting with you and enjoying it too as well, and watching it with you, watching it unfold. Because we talk about that all the time, that a single player story game, an experience that is for you, the player alone, has been lost. That we gave that up for multiplayer. We gave it up so that we could play together, which is totally fine. I have no problem with people wanting to play together. I have no problem with the fact that video games have advanced to that point. But there are truly some moments, Eric, that I was playing this game where, you've probably had it too, where you get slightly emotional about it. You're a little bit invested enough in the story that you go, like, wow, what would it be like if one day people just disappeared, and you couldn't explain it, and you were the only person there, and you had this just world to walk around in and try and figure out what's going on. Even occasionally you're walking around here too as well, and you'll just see, like, dead birds sitting in the street.
Wow.
And it's kind of like little tiny details where you're just like, okay, they kind of like, they want to leave you with the impression of, like, I'm in this world, I don't know what's happening, and just by walking around and getting that feeling, you're going to have these moments where they show the moment of somebody being raptured, right? And, like, I truly felt kind of emotional at those moments, because the dialogue, the beautiful audio that comes into this game too as well, I can't say enough about that. The musical cues, everything about this game kind of just gets you in a contemplative mood. So it's not going to be a game for everybody that loves shooters, Destiny, Grand Theft Auto Online. It's not going to be for somebody who really just wants a quick, visceral experience. It's going to be for those people who want a story. It's going to be for those people who want to see something unfold. And like I said, we got to have more of this stuff, because
I agree.
When you flood the market with the same content all the time, and you're just, like, constantly not redoing things, we're just all stuck in this nostalgia trip for things that we already played. And I am totally for revamping old things and making them new again and everything there too. But as we have seen with Hollywood, it's not a great formula in the long run. I mean, I don't want to see 50,000 remakes of the same games and the same movies and things that I've already played. So I think ultimately, if you feel like you haven't had a good multiplayer or single player experience, if you want to be if you liked Gone Home, that was a perfect thing, what you brought up there too as well. If you really love that game and the story that was kind of built out of it, I think you'll enjoy this. this is a lot more slower paced though than that game even by itself, because again, like you said, you're in one place in that game, and this one you're in a huge countryside in somewhere in Britain, and you're walking through houses, you're walking through trailer parks, you're walking to a lakeside, and you know, you're really only pressing X. You don't really press anything else too as well. So
Right.
yeah, I think more games like this are good in the long run. I mean, this has been critically lauded by a lot of different writers and journalists out there too as well, just for trying something different.
That's good.
And again,
So do you...
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, again, and PlayStation has been doing a lot to really highlight that games aren't just the same things that we've been playing. I mean, they do a lot of the, work to get old games back to us as you know, with this new system and everything there too. But you know, there's a lot to be said about new content and new things altogether. So.
Absolutely. I think at the end of the day, the new stuff is what's most important. The nostalgia trips are nice, and maybe for people that never played it in the first run, but at the end of the day, we need the new content, the innovative content. So is this a give it a shot?
I think it's a give it a shot. Now, it is for me, but, you know, it's just because I don't fall in terms of a typical gamer there too as well. I play lots of things, everything. You know, like we've talked in the past, you know, I try to introduce you guys to games that are different than what you're playing, because we all kind of get stuck in our own, like I play Rocket League like crazy now. Like, it's one of the few games that I play all the time. But you get stuck in a loop of like, all right, well, I got to try something different. So I do think it's a give it a shot if you're looking for a great story and you're looking for something that's visually really appealing. Definitely play everybody's gone to Rapture. I think that this is something different, and I really did enjoy some of the emotion that I was able to get from this game, because you don't get that all the time. There's very few instances where you feel emotional about a video game. So
all right.
yeah.
Well, there we have it. We have two give it a shots.
Yeah.
Two give it a shots for the month of November for the PS Plus games. If you have not played these games, you only have a short amount of time. You have until Tuesday to add them to your library. At least, at minimum, add them to your library. Even though I didn't, I'm going to do the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so that covers those games.
Well, can we talk just a quick brief moment as we're ending here too as well? Yesterday we had the PlayStation Experience, the yearly event that they hold in Las Vegas is where they tend to hold this. So they revealed a lot of big games. If you haven't had a chance, feel free to take a look at the Games and Gimmicks Twitter page or Facebook page. You'll see some of the stuff that we posted during the live event yesterday. The big reveal, Last of Us 2. This game obviously was a big deal to you and me, the first game. I really liked that they called it Last of Us Part 2. That they didn't do just Last of Us 2. Like, I was like, I joked about it on Twitter. I was like, they even did the font in almost like Godfather style font. And when I saw that, I was like, you guys are freaking brilliant. Like, just, yes. Like, if you can even, like, just take a little semblance of what we know from movies that can make games even better there, too, as well. We're going to get another story with Joel and Ellie. So I really do think it's going to be, like, visually, just that trailer. Eric, I know you haven't seen it quite yet, but it's like, it is... Like, you can see grit under her fingernails and stuff like that, too, as well. It's just crazy what they're doing at Naughty Dog.
That's going to be pretty phenomenal. When they did the remaster for The Last of Us, and that was the one that I played all the way through, I mean, that was just phenomenal how that looked. So I can only imagine what this is going to... Well, I mean, take a look at Uncharted 4.
Right.
That looked out of this world. So I can only imagine that's how this is going to look, too.
The other big reveals, and I'm sure we'll talk about it on another edition of our podcast, maybe during one and everything in between or something like that too. But big reveals, we had a new Uncharted game, which why? Because why? I gotta be honest, like, they don't need to be working on that IP anymore. They need to move on to something else, because clearly they can make amazing games at Naughty Dog. So you're kind of pigeonholing them. You're putting them in one spot. It doesn't involve Nathan. It involves Chloe and I think the other Nadine, I don't remember who the characters are. The bit players from the other games. It's two female leads now for the next Uncharted game. It's called Lost Legacy. So maybe, but I feel like Sony kind of pressured them to make this game. They're like, oh, we need another one.
Yeah, I believe it.
And then we had a couple last little things were Marvel versus Capcom Infinite, which had Mega Man as a playable character this time, which sounded really cool. And a lot of just nostalgic games too as well. There was Parappa the Rapper's coming out as a remaster. That's coming out I think at the end of this month. It's in 4K and all that crap and everything there too. And yeah, I know. And they also had Loco Roco and Patapon, which was a great PSP game that are also getting redone for like this 20th anniversary edition stuff. So a lot of stuff that, like, honestly I was surprised to see, but I mean ultimately when it comes down to it, like they just, I got to give Sony some credit with this press conference because they really did a good job to show a variety of stuff. They didn't really make it so about like the big properties and everything. They showed us finally new content, and that's all we want to see. We want to see new IPs. We don't want to see, I really don't want to see stuff I've seen before. I need new content. So you know, give us original ideas and keep those things coming. But PlayStation Experience was, in my view, just a good experience all around this year. The last couple of years they've been kind of falling flat a little bit, so it looked like that they were doing a good job this time around. So but yeah, and then other than that, man, we got TLC coming up tonight. So
TLC is tonight. By the time you guys are listening to this on the audio podcast, it had probably already happened. We will not be doing a review show, I don't believe, unless something crazy happens with it. There's just way too many pay-per-views, so I think we're gonna most likely limit it to NXT specials and, you know, really
the big ones,
just the big ones.
Did you hear that they were cutting down on the pay-per-views after this year? Like, I heard a rumor that said that they were going to deal away with like the 17, that they're going to weed out a few of those. So I'm hoping Hell in the Cell, TLC go by the wayside, because honestly, this is the riskiest damn pay-per-view that they have all year.
Yeah,
more than anything else.
The gimmick shows have to go. They just don't fit. It doesn't fit the current product, and people get hurt.
Yeah,
and,
they get hurt.
They're already doing dangerous things without gimmick matches. So I really don't want anybody getting hurt. So,
and quite literally, I don't need to see somebody take like a freaking backdrop through a ladder. Like, that has lost its appeal. I know it friggin' hurts. There cannot be any moment in that where they're like, yep, I feel all right. Like, that, taking a bump on a ladder, to me, is unnecessary. Like, all that stuff seems really unnecessary to me. So yeah, we got TLC coming up. I'll probably live tweet a few of those things there too as well, maybe big moments. But yeah, I don't think we're necessarily going to review it unless there's something crazy that happens, basically. So
no. So I think we'll still cover it in some way. We'll probably talk about it here and there, but we won't have episodes dedicated to it. So
right.
But we'll be talking about that, and we definitely have some big game stuff that's coming out around, and then I'll have to do better this month and do the December PS Plus games. They are contribute a little bit more.
I can't exactly remember. I did read the PlayStation blog and a few other websites, and they were talking a lot about this month's games and saying that they're both very fun. So definitely we will have a review about those, but in the meantime, thanks again, everybody, for listening to the audio podcast, as well as the we'll have that out soon, but the video podcast today on YouTube. Again, we're at gamesandgimmicks.com. We're on Twitter, YouTube, obviously, and we're all over the place, really, pretty much, Eric. So
like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Please do. But I guess that pretty much wraps it up for this edition of the podcast.
Catch you later.
We'll catch you later, folks. See ya.